So it's the morning of our summer iFARM event. We've got about 100 farmers signed up, and there's a few other guys from machinery companies coming, so that will be good. So with AGRII staff and everybody, we'll end up probably with about 130 today. But just behind me, I've got Ruben spraying the beans, so we'll just turn the camera around and just have a quick look at that. So we're putting 200 litres a hectare of water on here, well, water and product, and we're putting a fungicide on and also some trace elements. And the wind's just getting up, you can just see slight breeze, but we're all right. But just see the boom waving about a bit, and it does on this sprayer when you've got crops up like this. But no, the beans are looking well. I'm pleased with these beans actually. These are a variety called Vespa, and they're seed crop for AGRII. And these were planted, I think, about the 20th. Frankie, Frankie here, about the 28th of March. Frankie, come here. Got Frankie and Nala here. Just want to keep them out the crop. "32-metre boom on this sprayer." We've been on 32-metre now for about 5 years, I think. There we are, all switched on, all by GPS. There we go. Everybody's just arriving now for the event today. We're going around all the trial plots and various things we're looking at this morning, and then this afternoon we've got a trip around the direct drilling plots to have a look at that. And before anybody says that 8RX there is not ours, but we've got Rhonda and Tom and Ruben are going to be talking about carbon and fuel, and that's all part of the story. Dogs are both here with us as well. There's Frankie and Nala in the shade. We're just about to get started. I'm going to do a 5 or 10 minute update on the farm or where we are, and Rhonda's then going to start and do the carbon bit with Tom. So that's it.
And Tom just talking about the carbon audits and the carbon bits we've been doing here on farm. Over to Andrew.
Thank you very much. That's good.
Thank you, Fred. Morning everybody, and welcome here, and thank you for coming. Hope you have a great few hours here. We've got lots to see as always. Just starting a bit where we are on the farm. As you drive about, you'll go through a good lot of the farm on the trailers. We've got the blackgrass pullers in at the moment. They started last Monday. So anybody that says you can't get rid of blackgrass, I don't agree. You can. You just need to change what you're doing and do things a bit differently and just adapt and attention to detail. Anyway, that's the blackgrass update. Everything else, we still haven't got any rape on the farm. We've had a 3-year break, but I think we are going to go back into it this next autumn because of length of time we've had away from growing it. So the fields that are going to come rape this next autumn will last have been raped 6 and 7 years ago. So that was always the aim, to ban out the rape because we were growing it too close. To get the extra to go to £27 a tonne. But then as it turned out, British Sugar I think extended everybody up to the price to everybody for £27 a tonne. So I think we're all on that same £27 a tonne. So next year we're going to be on the 1-year price. And I think as well, I don't know whether you've all heard, that the minimum starting price next year, and this is not fixed, but the minimum starting price that British Sugar are looking at with NFU is $36.50 a tonne next year, and that's where the negotiations are going to start.
40. I'm not doing a presentation, so I've got no slides to prompt me, so I hope you don't mind, but I've put a couple of things down on here to make sure I stay on track and I don't do a Warden's waffle. As you all know, there are quite a lot of carbon calculators out there. We've got the AGRII Calc, we've got the Farm Carbon Toolkit. I have been very fortunate to work with a company based in Stanford called Forte. One of the reasons I wanted to work
of everything that we do, fuel-wise, machinery costs and everything else, so information's already there. We've got to jot it down into the correct boxes in the carbon audit. But basically it was everything from fertilizer, spraying, cultivations, how much fuel you used, and then to question stuff was like how many hedgerows, length of hedgerows, how many trees, the age of the trees, acreage of woodland, and just...
The good news was that the CO2 that's stored on the farm currently, without any changes, is about 340 tonnes. That equates to 221 less cars on the road, something crazy like 394 less transatlantic flights, 121 tonnes of recycled waste being stored, and also the electricity for 228 houses. Now that sounds great. A lot of carbon is stored in soil organic matter, and every time you do a farm operation and move that, you're releasing some of that carbon into the atmosphere. So
Tom Land is now going through all our fertiliser regime and the various trials that we've done.
So in terms of milling wheat, now is your timing really. If you go out and pinch the ear out of the grain out of the ear, you're at that sort of watery, milky, ripe stage, and that's where you'd be thinking about applying a foliar urea dressing if you haven't applied enough nitrogen. What we're doing there is we've been taking the principle, well, we need to think about reducing nitrogen rates. So we've gone from our standard 200 kilos of nitrogen, and then also what we've done is we've applied 150, and then we've applied micronutrients.
Now at the winter wheat plots, and Colin is going through the varieties, various traits with everybody.
And we had some scores back from Cornwall a couple of days ago, and Mayflower is holding incredibly well on Septoria. It has PCH1, so it should, in this trial, make a good show for itself. Yeah, so it'll be very interesting to see. But having said that, because of the yield was down a bit, there's very little Mayflower indeed to buy. That's most probably something that the industry needs to rectify for next year and put a little bit more out, because this really actually, and I think I finished with, so what's wrong with Mayflower? Well, nothing. Yeah, so anyway, at the moment, pretty decent. Then we move into a couple of candidates. These are like at X-stage levels. We'll have to see what they do. Both have got decent grain. Both at the moment have got decent disease. Ultimatum doesn't have blossomage. Renum does have blossomage. But as I say, they're sort of X-stage levels. Now, technically, that means that you could argue they shouldn't make it onto the recommended list. But at the moment, the way that they keep putting varieties through, they most probably will get on the recommended list, yeah. But we'll have to see how they do, and particularly here in a continuous wheat site. Zinzan is a walk-on by, because as you walk on by, you'll see why it's a walk-on by. Lasser. Into the group 3s, so the big hit on its Septoria score. And so last year looked ugly, anywhere under a lot of criticised pressure. Firefly really fell to pieces, even with new chemistry. So that meant pretty clean. It's got a nice...
Just wanted to show you the cracks in the ground. And you look at this, just shows how dry it is. And you look there, you get your hand right down to my wrist. Look at that.
Market share, but it's not a variety that you would put in the ground if you're thinking about how much fungicide spend you're going to make and how much PGR spend you're going to make. If you're in that ballpark of trying to cut back on inputs, then Skyscraper is not for you. If you're prepared to give it a burst of activity and raid the bank account, then it will really yield very, very well indeed, I have to say. And great yields going through the system, there is no doubt, and we enjoyed it last year. Again though, of course, it is a cougar cross. It actually, the ears look cougar-like in some ways. It's been looked at as an early drilled option, but that's slight. Stokesy doesn't have blossomage, Bairstow does have blossomage. So I kind of think, with Bairstow you could do it right. And if you look at the disease scores, they're pretty reasonable. Specific weight of 75.9 or down to sort of getting towards 75 with Stokes. It's just really not good enough, and neither of them are particularly stiff-strawed. The issues, or not issues, things you'd have to watch. So big yield, so nothing close to this coming through in the system in yield. But then if you look at the disease scores, You go to the Tritty side, decent. It's holding itself together. So you've got high yields and decent enough disease. There is absolutely no doubt about that. But then it kind of goes a little bit astray. So it's a Sundance cross, and people might remember Sundance is a bit wacky, a bit weak. Redwold is weak. It's good market share, and this should be its home. Yeah, second week beyond. This is its real home, and it's real.
At the area where I'm doing a slot with Fred on the direct drilling plots. So Fred's just explaining about the drills we had. Steve's showing him some photographs taken just after the crop started to germinate. And the dogs are just having a break and a drink in the shade.
Quite quickly, as soon as we had that dry period, then those little bits of friable soil on top had cracked and burst open, if you like. The seed was then sat in this slot, which was just left open. And we suffered from slugs, and again, with the dry weather, the disease coming in on stressed crops. And it's probably looking one of the poorest.
You say the percentage was spread difference
Between sort of 5 and 10%.
So, you know, what does that equate to money-wise?
We'll tell you later when we've harvested it, but it's a good point. It's very
It is a good point, yeah.
If you're going to go and change your system, please, one thing, make sure you can cost things accurately, because otherwise you're guessing. You could be fooling yourself. I know Andrew here, for instance, I've seen him and his costing. If it moves, it's costed. And we've got that very accurately recorded, haven't we, Andrew? We need to.
Yeah.
If we don't do a roll or don't do a store out, what's the cost? Oh, well, that's cheap, isn't it?
Steve, when you've got to be very careful because, you know, particularly if we're similar sort of strong land to this, you know, we're trying to save money, but at the end of the day, what makes the money is having a crop to sell. You know, if we go cutting through the growing season and we leave this out and that out, and we get to the end.
Yeah. Which one's that one?
This is the Avatar.
Avatar.
Yeah. So it's potentially creating that bit of uplift, and has allowed a little bit more rootage to go down vertically and access more moisture.
So it's deeper to start with.
Claydon, so again similar to the Sumo, we're starting to see a little bit more friable soil around the seed. Not so much that impingement, so the tillering is kind of going more all around the dale. So again, the dale, I would say on the day, actually puts it in nearly the deepest, and you can see, you know, the seed was down deep, and from that point of view, it's struggled to tiller properly, and it's created almost a bit of a weak point, quite high at the stem, which, to be fair, this probably isn't doing it justice. But I thought on the day when I dug these yesterday, between this and the weaving, were actually the best rootage. You can see we're getting some relatively good length there. The free flow, Andrew's setup, which actually again it's created some. This isn't a good example really, because it was in quite tight, but there was quite a lot of rootage. There is a bit of horizontal rootage going on, but to be expected on that soil type. But what I thought I'd do around the rest of the field, because we've obviously been paddling and tractors turning and everybody standing on it, we thought we'd sumo, what was the litre, was it?
Later, the machine that we drill our oilseed rape with, you've seen that machine that was based on a solo, we converted. And
so as a bit of a comparison within the field, just to show direct drilling compared to a bit of, well, it's quite heavy cultivation realistically, to see if we could
it's just
see,
a low disturbance subsoiler.
Yeah, to see if we could see any rooting differences. And, you know, that speaks volume in my eyes.
Steve's just going through one or two other things AGRII do while we wait for the trailer to come, which it's just arrived. This is our Bailey people carrier that we share with AGRII and Baileys themselves. One of my local celebrity farmer friends here, Mr. Haywood. A waffle watcher, I think, aren't you, Richard?
Yes. Blackgrass Ward.
Yeah. You're at Blackgrass HQ now here, didn't you know?
I haven't seen. I've seen some in the roadside.
Some in heaps as well,
Yeah,
does it?
there's a heap
There's a heap there, look. There's a heap just there, look. Shall I send him round to your place?
Well, no, we're not too bad.
Good, good.
Decisions are yours, the cultivator guy, on the day, and that really should be looked at quite seriously. So, setting this field up, It's a cover crop field, that's the process we've gone through. And I'd be accurate, I think, Andrew, in saying over the 7 years, we've failed quite miserably to get a decent cover crop established.
Yep.
This last year perhaps was the best in terms of we did manage to get vetches, Phacelia, rye, there were some radishes in it, established. But then what occurred was, because we've been successful in grazing these cover crops on the heathland, so a very different story up there. Cover crops, we can get them to work up there, we can get them established, we can put a flock of sheep over them, we can then drill spring oats into it. Beautiful, it works well. Down here, different story. So we've got this next layer down, which I can't see a wormhole in just at this point. It's extremely difficult to break. That is the layer at about 3 inch down to 6 inches, 5 inches, where the silt has actually settled down to. Really difficult challenge. So when you see some of these soils, in fact ground swells on next week, anybody going there, you'll hear all sorts of stuff being talked about. That soil is light, easy working. You can do anything you want there, virtually. This is very different. And that's why we come here and to farms like it, to actually learn how the hell are we going to bring some of this good technology, but how are we going to bring it into play here? Some cover crops to maintain that soil structure and the soil strength. So there's some nice work going on. We've got clover sown under spring barley, under spring crops, for instance, in some situations which we did try on this field. But clover sown under a spring crop, left in place, drill the winter wheat into. Now back to my point about some nitrogen, that will help in terms of nitrogen. Really, it is still, it's at the P2 stage, so it's still being looked at in terms of brewing. It's not got the full ticket yet. In a blackgrass situation, a fast growing spring barley that covers the ground quickly and is competitive against those grass weeds, it wouldn't be something like Laureate. There are better options along the route. So again, it's not just I'm growing for a malt barley, a malting situation. What are you trying to do with that spring crop? In the Budweiser situation, they've taken a lot of that material, and it just shows you sometimes this homegrown, UK bred or UK grown material has certainly got a bit of a surge at the moment. Other things we're in development with are haricot beans, which will make a UK grown baked bean. So that's in conjunction with Warwick University. The breeding program there looks interesting. We've got material now with multiplying. We've also got lupins from Australia, which look to be able to take a higher pH, higher calcareous soil situation. So we're investigating there. But lupins, fantastic for homegrown protein. They really do fit the combining spectrum as well. So sown April, harvested August, unlike soya, which is harvested a lot later.
Just going back to the Explorer, Steve, does it go to anything else apart from Budweiser?
It will malt and make the lager as per the planet back there, but essentially the story behind this is really that Budweiser contract. The one next to it is an attempt to replace Explorer, so it is early again. It is pretty rapid in terms of its development. Fangio there is one that again is in front of the brewers, including Budweiser, to see whether actually that gains a bit of growth. Fantastic malt quality. So that is the one to beat. It's got nearly 40% of the market in terms of spring barley, so it really is still part and parcel of what we see out there, and will be for a year or two to come.
All over the time, all the time, and social media. Direct drilling is not direct drilling unless you direct drill straight into the soil without any pre-cultivations and straight into stubble. So we wanted to try this to see, obviously, if it's possible on Andrew's soil, which the field we tried sort of up to 40% clay in places.
I think it's actually 55.
55.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, from that, you know, it's not an easy field to deal with. On the day, you could probably argue it was a little bit wet to be doing it. Some drills, obviously, you wouldn't naturally drill on those conditions, but the idea of the day was to push these drills. If we were on nice, easy, light, sandy soil, all drills will work perfectly. So it really was pushing these to the absolute limit. And then also at lunchtime, we had probably 5 or 6 mil downpour in about 20 minutes.
The pressure's on us, you know, whether it be carbon, whether it be environmental impacts, whatever it is, some of this stuff is really quite important. And so what we're trying to do for the industry, let's face it, is to make it work in a rotation on heavy soil. I could do it on light medium, no problem. This is challenging.
So I think we better go now for lunch, and we can carry on the chatter at lunch because we're late. We're just getting back in our blackgrass welfare trailer now. So it's great having 2 trailers on our open days. A lot of people are choosing to walk back to the yard ready for the barbecue. So now last bit is lunch. Oh, thank you. Yeah, cheers. Thanks for that. Put that there. Look at this. Fantastic. Good afternoon, gentlemen. So what were you saying about the SFI?
What we would like to say, Andrew, is that how do you feel now your direct drilling plots look better than your own farm?
Well, if it was true, it would be good. But you've just seen the evidence, and it's certainly not. Hey, have you had a good morning? Interesting.
Yeah, it's always good, Andrew.
I mean, this sort of thing as well, talking to people, isn't it, as well?
And I know we're technical, seeing what you've done tells us, you know, we're not far off being right with what
But we all learn off each other, doesn't it? It's the sort of thing we've got to do. It's the way. It's only.
Put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I personally learn a lot.
Yeah, I think you know. And this,
you only want to make an effort to come to.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So we've got a lovely sunny day. It's about 31 degrees at the minute though, but all in the shade here. Look at this, just fantastic. These sorts of things are just what makes it so worthwhile, and all the effort that goes into it, just worthwhile. We've had a full morning here. Thoughts on the morning and what you've seen?
Well, very good actually. We all know how much you like to waffle, but actually it's been a really informative morning. And it's going to take a bit of thought
it does.
To go away and actually just wonder what we have learned. I think we've learned a few things that one mustn't do, especially on heavy boys land. You've been doing cover crops for a while, and you've been testing your direct drilling for a while. And I think that, if you like, the one take-home message today is that actually there is no simple solution either in growing cover crops and how you manage those, and also in direct drilling. There are pointers, but it's very, very early stages.
Yeah,
I would think.
it is exactly, and you've seen with the results and what we went through with the direct drilling. Did you find that useful, looking at the plants pulled up? Up there.
Oh, well, I would never have thought to look at it in that detail.
No.
I mean, the rooting differences were extraordinary.
Yeah.
And also the percentage drop in germination just after your 3 mil of rain.
Yes.
Well, again.
It's staggering to think,
staggering.
But I think that also probably shows it was only just marginal in the morning when we started, and that's why the 3 mil took it over the edge. But no, and you can see how the varying drills, how it coped with the straw rake, how it altered the germination of some of them when that went through.
Yeah, so I certainly hope that you'll be persuaded by lots of people to do it again and expand it and test it.
Well, I think we will. I think we'll do it again. Well, I've had a few requests here this morning to do a direct drilling one in the autumn.
Yeah.
Right, and do it in the autumn, which we might do yet. I have thought about doing one, and we will do another one when we do one this autumn or spring. I haven't decided.
Test a few more drills as well.
Yeah, exactly. Get some more. Yeah, we will get some different drills in. Yes, yeah, we will. Yes, that's right. Say no more, John.
Yeah.
Great. Anyway, glad you've enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
Brilliant, no pleasure. Now after lunch, and those who wanted to come and look at the direct drilling plots could do, and we've got about, I think, 35 people who said they wanted to look. So here we are now in the field, and you can see what it's looking like. That is the area, remember, that wasn't in the trial, and we went through with the Elita, the same as the headland here, low disturbance subsoil and then the free flow. And you've got to say, when you look at that, that looks exceptionally good. So these are the headlands, this is the headland and the area where all the other drills turned and messed about. And obviously the tram line was seriously compacted, but still quite good. But yeah, for those who haven't seen it lately, this is it, and we'll have a look at one or two of the drills.
We've got wormholes that are through this, so we're not without that sort of activity. We'd just like more, really, whether we could do more at it. But again, break that open, you can see where the spring barley roots have got through this. So this is the soil that the free flow has moved to create that rooting, as Fred was trying to show this morning. It's difficult with plants that you tug out.
It's the weaving sabre time.
We get into the discs. The actual root itself of the plant has come up, managed to get...
What is evident here is this is the area that's been straw raked. If you look, there's a line through there, because beyond that, that side hasn't been straw raked, and you can just see how it's evened this plot up. Definitely made a difference when you look in the distance. It doesn't look as good in the distance beyond the raking. So all the way down here has had the straw rake through all the different drills. You don't need me to say here which we are in. This is the drill that's got a tram line in every breed, but again you can see beyond there not so even, and in front here this is the raked area, a lot more even. So again, the rake has made a difference. We're just looking at the soil pit.
Unit behind, so in dry conditions the Amazon really does put that seed.
This is the Dale Eco, and again a big difference there where it hasn't been raked to where it has, but not quite as good even germination probably here.
Dale's not for me. I mean, this one is sold on the fact that the coulters are sort of ground following, they're contour following. So each one has got a hydraulic sort of press unit keeping it in the ground, but allowing it to, it's that same sort of time that's given us that face. The roots have got down. I would say the roots have probably got down a little bit further. We felt at the time that this Dale was in at a fair depth.
I'm running out of battery here, so I'm going to do this really quickly now. This is the Claydon area. Not so much difference with the straw rake there, but then I think we possibly did actually rake the whole plot actually looking at it. And then looking at the roots.
Sliced in deeper, as you say, you wouldn't be using that on the day, but essentially what you can now see, although initially these plants struggled and our emergence was poorer.
So this is the Sumo plot, and you can see there the straw rake really hasn't made any difference through here. So yeah, not brilliant. Then looking at Steve.
3 metre.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got seed here. I've got roots breaking there, but I've got a ledge. I've got an edge here and a edge here that have really been smeared. So I can see what's gone wrong.
So this is the Avatar plot, Horse Avatar. Very even and consistent when you look down there. But it's very difficult to actually see the line of the straw harrow. So the Avatar, really you could say, well, it didn't need the harrow, it's put it in a good condition. And there's not much of a line, faintly visible, but not much. Then going to the roots.
So it looked the tidiest. My percent establishment was one of the best, but I'm worried. Is that plant going to perform operating in that zone? And I just wonder, you see that Claydon root, you see one or two of these others, I'm not so sure this is going to out yield because it is restricted in there. It's kind of work, but it's restricted. Underneath that I've got roots just getting down to here, but I then hit a layer where they're not going to go into. And so it doesn't matter how many I pull out, but that's the story, that's the scene I can see.
We're now in the Horizon plot. And this one's looking good also, even. Again, can't see the line with the straw rake across in the distance where it should be somewhere there, so very consistent. Maybe not quite as consistent as the horse, as the Avatar, one or two little patches, but still good for how it was going in. And then to look at the roots.
Tempting to have a go at that area.
There's a slanted disc, isn't it, on that one?
So it's got to go that way.
Disc has smeared it, and then what have we got in that bit? I can't remember this, Joel. Actually, here on the day.
It's a slanted disc, isn't it, like that?
It's an angled disc, is it? Right. Okay. So that's done that. Yeah, you can see the angle that plant's going to, and it's trying to push over there. So, yeah, you'd have to say that is one of the more interesting root systems across this this zone. You know, I've gone away from just a line. It's got roots going across here, and I can see that actually with the next one, because again, look at that. So we've got roots coming round into this block.
Just turn it round, Steve. Thank you.
Trying to work the way in this side.
Thanks.
So it's interesting.
This now is the Sky easy drill plot, and not quite as good now as it was. I think it's gone off slightly, but still not bad. But a little bit of unevenness amongst the plants. But the straw rake, you can't see where the straw harrow has been, because there's the blue marker that says it all up the other side of that. But then look at the roots.
So this crop needs constant wetting to keep it going to perform, because it is only operating in that narrow width in that zone. That's it. It's not using this bit in the middle. Yeah, yeah. So interesting, isn't it? One more drill I think left.
So this is the last plot, the Simtech T-Sem. You can see there the straw rake has made a difference, so it's this side the blue marker, and that cone is the straw harrow, so it has made a difference. But very patchy germination here. But I actually think one of the guys just commented just a minute ago that when on the day this seed wasn't in as deep as some of the others, and I think that's why we've got this poor germination. But we'll have a look.
You then press in between the rows, not on top of it, because you don't want to destroy that bowl shape. So I've left that bit there because even in this soil I can sort of see the shape. So it makes a cut through here, which it's done. It's then got this bowl shape in there where it's popped its seed. Whether that was quite deep enough I don't know, but that plant then starts to break out, and certainly from the early scores I got a reasonable amount of root that was starting to break out, but I think she's still struggling. So that one sort of shows you, it sits it on. Can you see where that that T-shape's gone through? She's made that. So there's the coulter point. There's the wing, let's call it that. And it sits it on this shelf, but it creates this bowl shape in there. So it's kind of a cute idea.
Have a look, turn around, Steve. So that. So
which way?
That, so we can see it. I'll say that's it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah.
If I break that off there. No, it won't do. So it really has taken a lot of energy to form that shape. That is the problem for it in this soil type. It is smeared. So
it's the end of our iFARM event today. Fantastic day, really hot, had a very, very productive grey. Lots of good chat with lots of farmers, which is always good as well. Here's Tom just putting our blackgrass welfare trailer away. And the blackgrass pullers have had a good week as well. They're back Monday because it talks to rain tomorrow, Saturday, so we'll see. But yeah, so thank you ever so much if you came today. A lot came up to me to have a word and say hello and say they were appreciating and liking these videos, so thank you for that. And what else is there? That's really it for this week, so thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, cheerio.